Imagine you are just 3 months old. You have never left your neighborhood. You do not have a phone. You do not have Google Maps. You do not even have a guide. But suddenly, you feel this uncontrollable urge to leave everything behind. You take to the sky and fly 8,000 miles across open oceans and massive mountain ranges to find a specific patch of forest you have never seen in your life. And the craziest part? You arrive exactly where you are supposed to be, down to the very same tree your parents used the year before.
This is not science fiction. This is the reality for billions of birds every single year. Right now, as you are watching this, there are millions of tiny creatures weighing less than a golf ball navigating the entire globe with more precision than our best military technology. We used to think it was just a lucky guess, or maybe they just followed the leader. But the truth is way more insane. It involves quantum physics, biological compasses, and maps written directly into their DNA. Every year, about 4,000 species of birds migrate. That is about 40% of all the bird species in the world. We're talking about 50 billion individual birds moving across the planet in a massive, synchronized wave. Some of these journeys are absolutely mind-blowing. Take the Arctic tern, for example. This bird flies from the Arctic to the Antarctic and back every single year. Over its 30-year lifetime, that tiny bird flies about 1.5 million miles. That is the equivalent of flying to the moon and back 3 times.
Then there is the bar-tailed godwit. This bird recently broke the world record by flying 8,435 miles non-stop. It flew for 11 days straight, without eating, without drinking, and without landing once. Imagine running a marathon for 11 days without a single break. How do they do it? And more importantly, how do they know where they are going?
For a long time, humans were completely baffled. Ancient philosophers like Aristotle actually thought birds hibernated in the mud at the bottom of lakes, or that they magically transformed into other birds during the winter. It sounds ridiculous now, but we really had no clue until 1822. That was the year a hunter in Germany shot a white stork and found a 30-inch African spear stuck through its neck. The stork had survived the injury and flown all the way from Africa to Europe with a giant wooden spear in his body. That was the first piece of hard evidence that birds were actually traveling between continents.
But knowing that they move is one thing. Knowing how they navigate is a whole different level of mystery. It turns out birds use a combination of several different superpowers to find their way.
The first one is something we can all relate to: visual landmarks. Just like you might recognize a gas station or a specific building on your way home, birds memorize the landscape. They follow coastlines, rivers, and mountain ranges. Researchers have found that some birds actually follow human highways and turn at specific interchanges. They are literally reading the map of the Earth from above. But landmarks only work if you have been there before. What about the birds flying the route for the first time? Or what about birds that fly at night?
This is where things get really sci-fi. Over 80% of migrating birds travel under the cover of darkness. To do this, they use the stars. In a famous experiment in the 1960s, scientists put birds inside a planetarium. When they projected a normal night sky, the birds tried to fly in their usual migration direction. But when the scientists rotated the star map, the birds changed their direction to match the stars. They are essentially tiny astronomers, using the rotation of the constellations to figure out which way is north. But even stars can be hidden by clouds. So, what happens when a bird is flying through a thick fog or a heavy storm and cannot see anything? They switch over to their third and most incredible sense: magnetoreception. Birds can literally feel the Earth's magnetic field. Imagine having a compass built directly into your brain. For decades, scientists were hunting for the hardware behind this. They eventually found tiny crystals of a mineral called magnetite inside the beaks of many birds. These crystals are sensitive to magnetic pull, acting like a literal needle that points them in the right direction.
But wait, it gets even weirder.
There's a theory in quantum biology that suggests birds can actually see the magnetic field. Inside a bird's eye, there is a special protein called cryptochrome. When blue light hits this protein, it creates a quantum reaction that is extremely sensitive to the Earth's magnetic pull. Scientists believe this might create a visual overlay on the bird's vision. To a bird, the magnetic field might look like a dark or light fog layered over the world, showing them exactly where the magnetic poles are. They are essentially wearing high-tech augmented reality glasses that are built into their eyeballs.
But even with a compass and a map, you still need to know when to leave. How does a bird know that it is time to fly 5,000 miles? It is all about the inner clock. As the seasons change, the amount of daylight changes. Birds have a highly sensitive pineal gland that detects these tiny shifts in light. When the days get shorter, it triggers a biological switch. Their hormones go crazy. They enter a state called hyperphagia, which is a fancy way of saying they eat everything in sight. Some birds will double their body weight in just 2 weeks, storing up massive amounts of fat to use as fuel for the journey.
And then there is the migratory restlessness. If you keep a migratory bird in a cage during the fall, it will start hopping frantically toward the direction it is supposed to be flying. It is an itch they cannot scratch. It is hard-coded into their DNA. In fact, geneticists have found specific migration genes that tell a bird not just when to go, but which direction to turn and how long to fly. In one study, researchers crossed 2 different groups of birds. One group naturally migrated southwest, and the other group migrated southeast. Their offspring, who had never migrated before, tried to fly directly south. They had inherited a literal average of their parents' flight paths.
But migration is not just a feat of navigation, it is a feat of extreme survival. The journey is incredibly dangerous. Almost 50% of birds that leave on migration never make it back. They have to deal with predators, massive storms, and exhaustion. But today, the biggest threat they face is us.
Human cities are a nightmare for migrating birds. Remember how I said they use the stars to navigate? Well, the bright lights from our skyscrapers and streetlights confuse them. This is called light pollution. Thousands of birds get lured into cities, where they become disoriented and crash into glass windows. In the United States alone, nearly 1 billion birds die every year from window collisions.
On top of that, climate change is messing with their timing. If the flowers bloom too early or the insects hatch too soon because of a warm winter, the birds might arrive at their destination and find there is no food left for them. They have spent 10,000 years perfecting their schedule, and we have changed the environment in just 50 years.
So why do they do it? Why take the risk? Why not just stay where it is warm? It all comes down to resources. The Arctic summer, for example, has nearly 24 hours of sunlight. This leads to a massive explosion of plant and insect life. For a bird, that is an all-you-can-eat buffet that allows them to raise their chicks much faster than they could in the tropics. They are basically chasing a never-ending summer around the globe to give their babies the best chance at life.
The more we study bird migration, the more we realize that we are just scratching the surface. We are talking about creatures with brains the size of a pea that are performing complex quantum calculations, navigating by the stars, and feeling the invisible forces of the planet. They are the ultimate explorers.
Next time you see a small bird in your backyard, take a second to really look at it. That tiny animal might have just arrived from a 6,000-mile journey, crossing mountains you will never climb and seeing oceans you will never sail. It is a reminder that there is a massive, invisible network of life moving all around us, guided by a map we are only just beginning to understand. If you found this as mind-blowing as I did, do not forget to hit that subscribe button. We are diving into the mysteries of the natural world every single week. Drop a comment below and let me know, if you could migrate anywhere in the world for the winter, where would you go? Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.